minutes. We can't do that. We will come back to it. And are we recording? Okay, yes. All right, so Tilt Signature Preserve, we have Natalie and Spencer with us. So would you like to tell us a little bit about the project?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Gates. I'm the land protection specialist at Tilt, and I have a little, a little something prepared for you today. So we are looking to apply for a grant through the Land Trust Alliance's Conservation Partnership Program. And this grant is a stewardship grant, so it helps us with building out preserves, trail establishment, and we're planning to establish a trail and signature preserve in Cape Vincent area. It's over on the Schmier property. So it's, what road is that, Spencer?
No, it's the Schmier Road up near
Schmier
Wilson
Road.
Point,
Yep.
over to Fuller Bay area. I presented, I want to say maybe 2 years ago here to the group, and that was the part about the restoration of the grasslands. Now we're starting to look at the property more holistically and say, hey, how can we invite the public to enjoy this property?
So we are planning to do a small trail out with an observation tower to kind of have a viewing platform of all the grasslands, and maybe even be able to see the bay. And essentially, I have a few examples that I can give you if you're interested in knowing what it may look like from some of our other preserves. So this is kind of what the observation tower could look like. We also have this one, which is like, smaller, but we also have, this one is at our Otter Creek Preserve, and it's accessible for anybody that's in a wheelchair or can't climb the top of the stairs. So you can actually, there's a viewing platform on the bottom here, so there's like a ramp. So we are able to do that as well. So we're planning to have a small gravel trail, maybe about a mile or so, or less than a mile, 1,000 feet. And essentially just to kind of bring more people in the community, have like a nice spot for recreation in Cape Vincent. So that's our project. And we're planning to have a small parking lot near the sign. So if you've been out there, you may see that there's already a sign that says Schmier Preserve, and that's kind of where the parking lot would be. It'd just be a small gravel lot, and the trail would also be gravel, so permeable. And I also have an example of a small parking lot from our Rivergate Trail, which may be similar to this.
The goal would be able to fit maybe 5 vehicles, just enough to maybe bring a small classroom of people out there, or small birding groups like the North Country Ornithology group, to have enough parking space to get off the side of the road and to have people access that point before it turns onto the private Fuller Bay Drive, and really gets down into the cottages. So that's kind of more of that public, easily accessible. You can turn around easily there without disturbing a lot of the neighbors. And the plan is would be to install this observation tower in somewhat of the center of this property, so it's not visually intrusive to all the neighbors, and that there's no viewpoints of the neighbors' houses from the center of that platform either. So
How far of a distance would it be to the back line of the Tibbetts Point Road properties?
the plan is to put it about 1,000 feet from the Schmier property.
Okay.
So it's quite a ways in from Tibbetts
So.
Point. Yeah, I'd say probably 3/4 of a mile.
And I know that Paul Duflo gave you guys an access in that way, I believe.
That was actually part of the deed for the Reinhardt property. When we acquired that, that was all part of that acquisition.
And what's your plan with that?
We don't really have any plans for the Tibbetts Point Road for that property next to Paul's. That really is kind of a low drainage area. this point, so we're gonna keep that untouched. Our primary access has been through, around by Tippets Point Lighthouse,
Mhm.
coming in through Mary Mysick's property. We acquired half of her property last year, I want to say, or maybe about a year and a half ago. So that's how we've been accessing it for the grassland restoration that's occurring on the backside of Tippets Point. This new trail and the observation tower would be on the Schmier property. Access would be around Wilson Point.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
What permissible activities are going to be able to be done out there on the trail system?
Yeah, so it's a non-motorized trail system. We acquired it with DEC grant funding. And motorized use is really incompatible with a lot of the conservation work that we do. So primarily it's just going to be hiking, small biking, if you want to take your dogs out for a walk, as long as they're on the trail and not running through grasslands. Our primary goal is for grassland nesting birds to establish on that property. So we don't want any disturbance in the center of the fields. So we want to concentrate public use and activity to the actual trail that would be developed. As Natalie mentioned, it's a Land Trust Alliance Conservation Partnership Program grant funded through the Environmental Protection Fund from New York State. And it is a matching grant. Tilt is funding all the match through private contributions. And the remainder will come through that CPP grant funding. Awards or applications are due in December. Awards are generally announced around Earth Day every year, which is the end of April, sometime in that timeline, meaning that we would take the summer to actually design and plan, pursue all the necessary town approvals and permits to install that. And likely construction would begin maybe sometime around this time next year, if we're lucky.
And you're seeking a letter of support from us.
That would be
Yep, for our
fantastic.
grant.
If you would be willing to provide a letter of support, it just shows the granting agency that we have local buy-in, that tourism is a big part of our regional economy here. And the Land Trust is doing what we can to support that and bolster that.
And so basically the letter, and we'll need to vote on this once Mandy is here. The Cape Vincent Local Development Corporation is pleased to support the Thousand Island Land Trust proposal to the Land Trust Alliance Conservation Partnership Program. The recreational trail improvements proposed as part of the Edward and Marlene Schmier Preserve align with our goal of protecting and enhancing the quality of life in our region. The St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario are a popular tourist destination as they offer natural attractions and outdoor recreational opportunities. The establishment of a preserve trail in Cape Vincent would provide a significant benefit to our community, providing an open space for people to enjoy. Through this project, Tilt is able to continue to offer new and improved outdoor experiences for local residents while ensuring that these opportunities continue to be available in the future. Therefore, the Cape Vincent Local Development Corporation asks for your full consideration of Tilt's application. So that's the letter. When Mandy gets here, I'll allow her to read that so we can vote. Anybody have any problems at this point with the wording though?
No, it's well worded.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. So what we'll do is we'll vote on that when Mandy gets here, and then I will sign it and we'll scan it over to you guys so that you've got what you need.
Thank you for the
Awesome.
opportunity.
Yeah, you're
Appreciate it
welcome
very
to
much.
stay for our next presentation. You might be interested in this. This is two of our local residents, Warren and Don Smith, who want to talk about a potential trail, another trail within the area of Cape Vincent. So Warren and Don, we're going to turn it over to you.
You're talking about 1,000-foot trail?
Yeah.
We're going 26 miles here.
Go
We're going big.
big or go home, right?
But before we do that, I'm going to ask the group a question. How many people in this group have been to the Ashland Flats Preserve trail? It's a 2.3-mile trail. Starts off at Burt Rock.
Burt Rock.
Yes. Okay, show of hands.
I've only been to the tower. Yeah.
Oh, well, that doesn't count. Because I'm
Oh, I
talking
knew
about
you were
the
gonna
trail.
say
I'm talking
that.
about the trail.
My hand's down too.
Yep.
Oh, okay, so,
Big, that's good. Retract.
oh boy. Well, my lovely assistant here has a couple pictures of the trail that we're proposing.
Thank you.
And I sent you guys video. I sent you via email. Jeannie, did I send that to you? Yeah. So you guys have what he's handing out, I believe.
Trail looks wet.
Yeah, it doesn't go with them.
Trail looks wet.
Thank
Yeah, that's if you go off the trail.
It's a canoe trail.
It was quite a fun. I just really discovered it about a month or two ago. And it's a beautiful trail, 2.3 mile, open to the public, got a parking spot there. Beaver dams, waterfowl, swamp, swinging on the side. It's a beautiful trail. It may be one of Cape Vincent's best kept secrets, I'm not sure, but based on the voting here, I think it could be. But let me backtrack a little bit and introduce myself. No, go ahead. No, my wife and I, we came up here on vacation, loved the area. So in 2018, we bought a cottage on Tippets Point Road, kept our house in Pittsburgh. But again, we love the area so much. We were fortunate enough to get a house, a year-round house, several years ago. So we are here permanently. I think Dave knows us and so forth. Mary tries to ignore us, but so anyways, we've made the commitment to Cape Vincent. Interesting enough, though, I volunteered at the lighthouse for several years and also volunteered at the historical museum. The number one question that I was asked was not, where's the trail? The number one question I was asked is, where do we eat? And the number two question and number three question, I would say, would be, where's a beach? Where can we bike? Is there a place where we could bike? And I would give them the map at the Chamber of Commerce and send them on their way. But like I said, Dawn and I are from actually Western Pennsylvania. We had a piece of land that was about 3 acres in a rural area. And right in our backyard was a trail that literally went from our backyard to Washington, D.C. It was part of the Montour Trail and the Great Allegheny Passage Trail, literally. And I have done from my house to Washington, D.C., not at one time. I did it over several years. But I know firsthand the impact that a trail can have, especially in a rural area. Saw it firsthand, loved it. It was just a great experience living there and living along the trail. When we came here to Cape Vincent, obviously we went ahead and explored all the different trails in the area. The one in Watertown, the Black River Trail, fantastic. We also, Dawn and I spent a lot of time on the Danforth Trail there, especially this past winter since there wasn't any snow, and I'm not the only runner here. I see two in front of me and Dawn, and we would go out there and run on the trail, and there would never be a time, this is December, January, February, that we did not see more than one person on the trail. The dead of winter, there's people on the trail. We also enjoyed the Sackett's Harbor Trail. There they have actually about 2.5 mile trail. I won't ask anybody if they've been there. I'm not here to embarrass anybody, but we've been on the trail many times, and it's great. It's a limestone trail, weaves through the battlefield, farmland, residential areas, and actually ends up at the high school. And the great thing about that trail is I learned a lot about the War of 1812 because they would have plaques and kiosks. So if you have any questions about the 1812 war, just ask me because I've read the plaques many, many times. So we have that there also.
I see.
So being from, an area where there's just a lot of trails and just the opportunity that maybe presents itself. And again, what I'm suggesting, proposing, whatever, is something from the historical museum to the end of the Ashland Flats. I believe that would be 6 to 8 miles long. I have not gone on the trail because the Development Authority of North Country has like these big danger signs, no trespassing, so forth. So I have not been on that particular part of the trail where there has been signs of no trespassing.
I'm sorry, can you tell me where you're looking to start it again?
Sure, right off of Elm Street.
Okay, right up at Elm Street, back by where where Lake Street. is.
Yes, yes,
And it goes back along the farmland.
yes.
There's already like a semi-improved surface road back there.
Right, there
Okay.
is. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. There's a road from Elm Street to Barrett Road or wherever that,
Fabric.
Fabric Road, and that's a mile and a half. Now I've walked that trail and I biked the trail, and there wasn't any no trespassing signs or anything, so I didn't feel like I was intruding. But yeah, it would go from there to there. Then you would have to link it up past where the transfer station is, and there, DAC has the property from there all the way to Burt Rock Road. From Burt Rock Road, then you pick up the Ashland Flats Trail, which is 2.3 miles. So I'm guessing about 7-8 miles for the whole stretch. But here's the key, we say rails to trails, but that's not correct here. It's the DAC waterline trail from Cape Vincent to the Ashland Flats. And that is the people who initially I contacted and, tried to find out some more information. There are some easements along the way, so I asked them to go ahead and take a look at that and see where they're at. But here's an interesting thing. My lovely assistant has handouts from a trail that DAC does. It's in Calcium, New York. And this was built by DAC.
Is it Dak or Dang?
Dang.
Dang.
I also mispronounce Shmo and Shimon. I'm still not a
Well,
full local yet.
there's so many different organizations. One letter can be the difference where you're gonna go in the state, so.
Okay,
That's all.
okay, no, it's what it is. Development Authority of North Country.
Yep, that's it,
Okay,
Dang.
great. But anyways,
They're things.
DAC, whatever, is responsible for that trail. It's a 2.3 mile trail, ironically, that goes right along the residential area. I went there and I took a picture because what they're doing is they're putting a sewage line down between Fort Drum and Watertown. So I talked to the engineer a little bit, and again, they're just putting this big pipeline underneath the trail. And I said to him, I'm sort of working on this project, whatever, is there any concern by the residents that, this sewage line would affect the trail? And he just laughed at me, because he says the sewage line would have to be 4 or 5 feet below ground because of the frost line. So obviously some, runners, bikers and all that is not going to impact that particular, trail. So that's where we're at there. I looked at the trail, walked the trail, they've been maintaining it. And again, you get back to, okay, Sackets Harbor's got one, Clayton's got one, Calcium, New York has one, on and on and on. So, let's try to pursue something here in the town. I have another question for you. Who was the president between William Taft and Warren Harding?
Or Cleveland.
Wrong.
I have no idea.
Boy, but you said
It was Woodrow Wilson, and he has one of my all-time favorite quotes. And Woodrow Wilson said, "You want to make enemies? Try changing something." And that I know is so true. I know, or I learned that some people sort of pursued this idea, 15, 20 years ago, and they there was a resistance. Let's just call it that. But I think we can get in front of some of these objections. I have yet another pass out. there's a organization called, a marketing organization called Niche, which is actually out of Pittsburgh. Huge organization, 350 employees. They get like 50 million people accessing their platform every year. And so they have a survey. They survey towns. And as you can see, Cape Vincent got an A+ when it comes to safety. And I checked the other towns in the area, and only Cape Vincent and Sackett's Harbor got an A+, for safety. So to me, vandalism, boy, I mean, we got an A+. It shouldn't be that big of a problem.
Because we didn't put in the pedophile highway that we proposed.
I was at that meeting.
Okay.
And I was 1,000%.
I still have scar tissue from that meeting.
And I learned from that meeting, to be quite honest.
Spencer, I see you laughing.
Heard the war stories. Heard the war stories.
Yeah. But anyways, I mean, that's one example of trying to overcome an objection. The other example is liability. As you can see, New York has statutes that will, safeguard the landowners, for use of their property. And we have a copy of that. So this, it's a safe community. We can protect, landowners for what we've done. I did learn a lot from that presentation and was very supportive of it, and know it was kind of resistance, that you can come up against. But as I said, as I was pulling my material together, I said to Dawn, did you ever hear this saying, how do you eat an elephant? Exactly.
I do know that.
And that is lots of ketchup.
Sorry, lots of ketchup.
You're right. So that was just, I just pulled together that really quickly. It was like, okay.
Did you pull, I'm sure
No,
you
sure,
did, but the GIS map to see, so whose property, I think you've done this research, whose properties
Well,
are you
yes,
looking at?
I have done the research. I mean.
There's gotta be a Wiley in there because they own half the,
There's a Marty Mason.
okay, well, he owns the other half.
Yeah. And Woods Farm owns it.
Okay,
And again, I mean, I went to the Jefferson County, I got all the tax maps and so forth, and we've got copies of the deeds, which show the easements and so forth. I didn't think we needed to go even down that path yet, because there's still some hurdles that we have to go over before we start talking to landowners. But yeah, those are the two primary landowners, and then I think the town has a little piece of property there that goes across that road where the transfer station is, and then into where the water line.
So I guess the question there, I've got two questions. So question one.
I asked the question.
No. Not you. So the first question would be, and Christine, one of the reasons I asked you to sit in for Pam was to see what the village involvement might be in something like this. Would the village be involved? Should he be talking to the village? Because it starts in the village, correct?
oh, absolutely, because, so you're gonna have a trailhead in the village. If you're starting on Elm Street, you're talking about, you can't just.
Well, I'm looking at this at 10,000 feet, and to me, the whole goal is to have the trail actually start at the historical museum right in
In the village.
Right, to have like a bike lane, because we're not gonna river. Have a bike lane from there to Elm Street. You can laugh all you want.
No.
I can laugh that before.
No. I'm looking at Scott because the bike lanes have been, there's a lot of stuff out there that, could be resurrected, but in
Okay.
answer to Mary's question, yes,
Yeah.
the village, would.
I'm
would have
trying
a-
to think of, how, what's the next steps for us to be of assistance as an LDC And I think the village is almost like a first step before we would even be looking for if there were grants that were needed or whatever. I asked Tilt to stay. It was serendipity that this happened. It was not prescribed. But, you know, I don't know what advice and counsel you guys might give if you've worked with Dank on things and how Tilt might play into this.
Not with Dank in particular, but I will say that when I started with Tilt in March of 2016, my very first project was to start a New York State Parks planning grant for the Rivergate Trail System to assess the existing infrastructure along that stretch of trail that we had already had title to. So that the title work and actually having the right to build or to do the research would really be step one in this, I would think. But then going out and assessing all the infrastructure to see if it's feasible.
Right.
And 7 years later, we have a trail. Possible. It works. It's very expensive. It takes an entire community to get behind something like that.
Well, my thinking was, and again, I researched because, oh my gosh, all the different property owners you had to deal with. It was pretty impressive.
Well, it was started in 1990, really,
Right.
with Sissy Danforth and her congregation of the historic rail line.
Right. And see, with us, the infrastructure is there, the trail is there. And this is what got me excited. The trail is there and we only have to deal with 2 landowners. That's the bottom line. But that's why I started off with, DAC, because they have the easements. And I didn't want to go and start knocking on people's doors and not really knowing the individual, knowing how they felt about the situation. But again, 2 people, we only have 2 people. We could build an 8-mile trail. And we only have to make it a win-win
there's gonna be-
situation.
Yeah, there's
Sir,
gonna
have
be
you-
more.
Have you met with the development authority?
Yeah.
Within the
Thank
last, when I started here 8 years ago, that was one of the first things we looked at. And the village and the town met with the development authority to do just this.
Mhm.
And the development authority, a lot of their easements are only for the water line. They don't have an easement to put a trail over it. So you have to go to each individual property owner along that full length. Because when the rail was abandoned, nobody filed a rails to trails application. So
Right.
all those properties went back, they reverted to the original owner. And that's why, like, if you get down by Brownville, there's a huge, like, once you get by Brownville, you could go all the way into Watertown, but after
But you're
in
not,
Brownville out, every owner took it back over and wanted nothing to do with it. So the
Right.
development authority has looked into it
but
already.
the piece that you're looking at, from what I understood, you said you're just looking right now at about 6 to 8 miles to link up to the Ashland Trail.
Right.
And then going beyond that along the Dank line, down through Brownville, it would be like a next step, right? Like
Well,
you're looking at this
but
in
even
Taking
that-
it in pieces. Now,
Even that first section
still as part of Dank.
is still part of the Dank water line, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
so for a lot of that, and they only have infrastructure easements, so they can only go in and make repairs to that water line and back out. They don't have it's a different easement if they had recreation, right?
Yeah.
We did meet with them
Yeah.
maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and they didn't want to approach it then.
right. But then again, between now and then, they build a 2.5 mile trail at Calcium.
That's a I think they have a different easement. They own that property there. They own all of that. That's why it's only that length. That actual water easement goes all the way to Fort Drum and all the way to
Right.
Watertown. But that's the only section they own. So they own all that property through there, and it's not just an easement.
Right.
So that's why they ran that there.
But if what I heard was correct, the part that Warren and Dawn are talking about is Marty Mason Wood Farms.
Those are the only 2 owners for the 6-mile stretch.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That would make sense. Marty just bought that whole section for his, those
Windmill
willow
project.
bushes and.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he planted stuff out there too, and he's harvested, but it is, if it's the one I'm thinking of, I go out there with my dog all the time. You can walk all the way to the Hell Road and.
Yes, but see, you know what? I got nervous about that based on your presentation and going on people's property without their permission. So I would
Way
have to
back,
do
Are
that.
you a
way back.
pedophile?
No, you had to have been at the previous meeting. 5 years
Exactly,
ago to
I
get
know,
that
I
joke.
lost my mind too when that
Yeah.
happened.
But, okay, so just in the interest of our meeting and time, what would be the recommendation? Do you think that Warren and Don should go to a village meeting and have this conversation? This is why I asked you to be here. Tilt, I don't know if you guys, have anything where you could help in this area or not. I'm just trying to think of, these guys have done a lot of work. It seems to me that we're spending an exorbitant amount of money to improve the waterfront, and people get here and then they have nothing to do.
Exactly.
So if we can say, you get off your transient docks and you can just start at the History Museum and go on a nice walking path in this beautiful area, that seems like a good thing for me to do. But I don't know, we have to tell them how to go from where they are, which is a heck of a lot of work they've done already, to say, what's the next step? Is kind of when he and I talked, why I thought he should come to get the collective advice of the group.
Well, my thinking was that, if we don't get cooperation from the Water Authority, and if we don't get cooperation from Marty Mason, it's DOA,
Yeah.
But I'm not in a position to approach Mr. Mason about the project. I
Well,
don't know.
Well, I don't know that the question's been answered, like, there's been a lot of research done, but then are you guys gonna head this up and move forward? Because that really, when you start talking about authorities now, who takes this? Who
Well,
takes this on?
My big here, I'll give you my big closing.
Okay.
No, I think that, I did a lot of research on grants and so forth. And I just think, being an optimistic person, that if we tie the Club Street project with this project, with promoting the history of the area and using other examples like that, that we could get a 6 to 8 mile trail. We could get grant money for a 6 to 8 mile trail, based on visit revitalization, the Club Street project, promoting our history, promoting, our culture. We went to, what was it, the Indian River Lake trail. And it was wonderful because what they did is they had interactive opportunities for kids for a mile. That type of thing, which was just like, well, that's a fun thing to do.
It was a sensory trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And the
so,
Wild Center has
Yeah.
done the same thing.
So
That's
from
wonderful.
a village standpoint, I'm a dreamer like you, and I would love to see this type of trail. We worked hard on this when the development committee first stood up. We wanted something just like this. I think timing wise, right now, strictly from a village perspective, we are not going in for any grants until we can dig ourselves out from underneath the East End Park grant and the New York Forward that we haven't even started. New York Forward is a reimbursable grant,
right,
which means we have to come up with money, the village, the
Right.
taxpayers from the village have to come up with the money through loans and everything else up front. And then we wait for New York State to pay us back.
right.
New York State, we are on our 8th year, Scott, or 9th year waiting for $50,000 from New York State to pay for a garage that we built.
Right.
That's a lot of money for a small village. So I say, yes, I think this is a great idea. I say timing wise, it's not going to get tied into New York Forward, not right now, or Club Street, because that is also New York Forward, just because unless you can convince the town to go in for money, the village is like at a zero.
Right.
We're 4 or 5 years out from being able to even apply for another grant.
Right, and I researched that, and that's why, I looked at the federal grants that are available, and that's the way we would have to go, is the federal grants for rural trips. And there you get your money up front,
And there's no match.
and there's no match.
Federal grants with no match.
Am I wrong on that one?
I don't.
I'm not sure. But anyways, I knew with the state it was a reimbursement. I know that the conservancy, the Rails Conservancy is money up front. That I do know, and I felt that, yeah, that's the route we have to go, to get grant.
Okay, I'm just giving you kind of
Oh,
the
sure.
variables from the
We're here to
village
listen.
standpoint. The village is investing no more money right now until we figure out where we're gonna be at. for
Correct.
New York Forward. And, that's a really 2 to 4 year process. East End Park, we were granted the $3 million for East End Park in 2019.
Yeah.
And, we completed it 4 years later.
Sure.
So, and now we're paying on it.
Mhm.
So, I'm not saying don't continue to pursue it. I'm just saying.
And I'm not
the
saying this is gonna be done
timeline is-
next year or the
Yeah.
following year either.
Well, when you kind of said tie in with New York Forward, well, I got a rash. So, and I don't want you to think that we would not be supportive of it. I think it's a wonderful idea. And I would get involved outside of the village. I would get involved in it, personally, but from a village standpoint, that's,
Right, I guess my question is, I'm trying to figure out what's the next steps for them.
Right.
Like, it seems to me that just letting the village know that there's citizens that want to do this and, maybe a similar discussion to
to the
this,
town.
not asking for anything, but just saying,
We're doing
we'd like to do this and this is what we're doing. I'm looking at Tilt to say, if you're aware of, federal grants or whatever, Warren and Dawn can maybe have a conversation with you offline to see, what might be the next steps.
And I'd be happy to sit down with both of you at some point, to at least spend an hour to go over processes and pitfalls with Rivergate.
Okay.
Whether our board or my executive director has any appetite to go any further than that, I can't determine,
Oh,
but
no, we
that's
asked him for
at,
that.
at the bare minimum, I can at least, sit down and we can chat Rivergate, because that's what we know.
Yes, and I mean, I'm not naive. I mean, I know that the village and town does not have the money right now. But, could we pull together a grant? Could the timing be right, with the Club Street project, with Cape Vincent revitalization, with, the grants I was looking for rural, trails,
Scott, are you familiar with those, the federal rural grants?
Not that he's referring, no.
No?
I mean, I'm familiar with like the Rails to Trails grant, those programs, and like some of the federal money that goes through the EPF, but, State Parks and Rec, Environmental Protection Fund has their mobile trail program, but I'm not familiar with any federal grants that pay you up front.
We did a little bit of research on federal highway grants when Rivergate came about, and it was, something that we decided not to pursue, just given the amount of hoops and, processes, it would double or triple the cost of the project to pursue the fund. So we decided to avoid those, to fundraise locally instead, where every dollar is actually a better spent dollar.
I think you could get support, with the village and the town for the concept. But I think there's a few more details, who's gonna take this on? Is this something the LDC takes on? Do you have, the capacity to do something like that?
I honestly, I would have to say, I don't know what's involved in
Yeah.
taking it on,
Yeah,
right? If it was that, they had the plan and they said, it's X amount of dollars. Let's say we had another angel donor who said, I'd like to give that money. Somebody's got to maintain the trail, right? Somebody's got to mow it or whatever the case may be. The LDC can't do that, right? So now this becomes a
The
village
trail
or
is being
town.
mowed right now.
Right, right. But I mean, but I'm just saying that, there's maintenance things that have to
Right.
occur.
Oh, I
Somebody's
understand
got to
that
trim
completely.
bushes or whatever the case may be. We don't have a public works group.
But you have me, and I'll be serious here for a minute. The Montour Trail that we lived on was like an 8 to 10 mile stretch that I personally maintained.
Picked up the litter.
Well, I picked up the litter and did that, and got neighbors that went ahead and did the sawing of the, logs and all that.
Right, but to what Mary said, that's kind of goes back to my original point, which is, with what authority are we gonna move forward? So, someone has to kind of take this on and spearhead it and start doing, you're gonna have to talk to the landowners. Because
Right.
really, I don't think you get too far out to speak to Woods Farm and to Marty Mason and say, look, here's our concept. Are you willing to discuss it? And if the answer is yes, you build your packet, and then I think from an awareness standpoint, the town and the village
Need to be aware.
need to be aware of what's going on, and
Yeah,
but I don't think there's a little more work to be done in order to have something that that we could take and shape and decide things like who's going to maintain it. And it sounds very easy to just make a nice walking path from Club Street to Elm Street, but every one of those sidewalks, there's a 5-year plan for sidewalks. And we've been shot down by the Department of Transportation because Route 12, which is Broadway, doesn't belong to the village, and we have to get permission from the state and the county to do anything along Route 12. That's your largest stretch of sidewalks. So there's a lot of things that build into it. That's why I say if you kind of focus your efforts for now on Elm Street, it's a village road, it's village property, and you can at least launch from somewhere. When you start talking about Club Street, you've just added 3 more outside organizations that have to be coordinated with. Mandy, you were in on sidewalk discussions, weren't you? And the sidewalks died a slow and painful death because the Department of Transportation just lost interest,
Right.
which they can do.
Right.
Um,
With Rivergate, it took about 4 years of planning with an ad hoc committee to assess conceptually. From zoning, from landowners, to financing, to maintenance and balance. Considering all those different aspects up front before you.
But you had a more challenging project because you had multiple landowners, you had to build that bridge over, the creek. I could go on and on. I still, not to oversimplify, I've only been at this for 2 weeks, so it's not like this is like,
Well, you've done
year
quite a bit of
3.
work. Yeah.
So that's point number 1. It's only been a couple of weeks. The other thing is, I just cannot get away from the fact that you could go from Elm Street to Ashland Flats, 2 property owners, you could bike it tomorrow. So you've got a real asset there. Now, maybe it's phase 3, 4, 5, 6 that connect it with, the village, which I think ultimately you would want to do. But you've got this lane that is just beautiful. It's there. You've got Ashland Flats that nobody is using. I could tell that nobody's using it because there wasn't any litter, So, to me, you're right. I mean, I gotta talk to the landowners.
So don't tell that part to the landowners.
So it seems to me that,
But I'm not in a position to talk to landowners because I have no history in the area.
yeah.
I don't know
so-
Marty
so-
Mason from.
Yeah, so here's what I think I'm gonna summarize just in the interest of our meeting, and I know we got a lot to cover. So I think it would make sense for Warren and Dawn to come to a village meeting, just to talk about the concept. Do you agree with that, Christine?
They're welcome. You're welcome to come to a village meeting. I don't know that you're ready for prime time yet. I'm not sure.
And
that you're-
Christine can share, you can
Yeah,
share this.
That's why I've been
Your
taking
role
mad
here.
notes. That's why I've been asking questions. I will certainly share this from an awareness standpoint. To me, I think you would do well to sit down with Tilt, and they're really good to deal with.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
And
Dawn worked for the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy for 8 years.
Okay, so she even speaks
So she
to
knows
that.
all about conservancy.
Yeah.
So
All
it's not
right,
like
so
we're
it
going into
sounds
the
like,
business
so then it
science.
sounds like the next step is they're gonna talk with Tilt. Tilt will give them some advice and counsel.
Mhm.
Christine, you're gonna make the village aware.
Yep.
And Dan will be aware from the minutes of our meeting. And then you guys can keep us informed. Does that seem like a good?
And your best partner might be the development authority bank.
Mhm.
They might have an interest. I mean, they have, I don't know what, they spend so much money a year on recreation based on their mission and everything. That's why they have some of those other areas. So they may be your best.
Well, that's why I went there first.
And since we've met with them, they've had a change in executive director and some staff since we met with them 7 or 8 years ago. So they may have a different outlook, but I think they might be the best partner.
Well, I mean, I was a private citizen dealing with them and they didn't hang up the phone on me, so. I have no problem. So,
I'll give you Marty Mason's phone number.
Yeah, but see, that's the key. I mean, the little I know about the area, it's not me that would go to Marty Mason, because Marty Mason doesn't know me.
I would just call him. He doesn't know that he doesn't know you.
But you're the one, you're the one that's passionate about this, so you're the
Yeah.
one that needs to talk to him about it.
Oh, I have no problem talking about it. I just thought, no, I have no problem talking to him about it, but.
All right, so it sounds like the next thing, Christine, you're gonna bring it.
I will bring it
Well,
to the
if
village.
you and the minutes can alert Dan and make sure he brings it up to the, and in the interest of letting folks leave. Mandy, I just let you read the letter which Tilt asked us to sign. Everybody else heard it. I read it aloud, so let's pass, if we would, I'd like to have a motion for the Cape Vincent Development Authority to sign the letter supporting Tilt in their application.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and may I have a second?
I'll second.
And Bill, a second, all in favor, aye? Anyone? All right,
Thank you.
I think it's great that you're getting this done so quickly.
yeah.
You know, because you haven't had that land that long. So I think it's great.
We wanted to restrict it first,
For a
knowing that
conversation.
grant programs don't happen once a year. Have to get in while, get while getting.
Yeah.
Feel free to keep going.
Really, let us know if you'd like to take any of ours. We'd be happy to do it.
It's an uphill battle.
It
So we're
is.
doing our best.
Great, thank you you guys very much. You're welcome to stay for the rest of it. I signed the letter, I just couldn't sign it until everybody said yes.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, back to our normal agenda. So, hopefully you all had a chance to review the October 10th meeting minutes. Does anyone, would anyone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Dave. May I have a second?
Second.
And, oh, Jim seconded. All in favor? All right, update on outstanding projects. Scott.
Sent out their reports. I don't know if anybody had any questions on them.
The only question I had was the Ag and Markets grant was not in there. Can you give us an update on that?
Yep, so I've been working with Mike. Unfortunately, I asked him to have a price so we could discuss it today, and he didn't give me one. He has a list of items that he would like to do. He's waiting to hear back from some of his vendors on pricing. I try to have it today. We were supposed to meet last week in person, but he had somebody calling sick at the coffee shop, so he had to work. So we've just been coordinating over the phone and through email. So I've got a list of what he wants to do. I've started generating the language of the grant, but I don't have a cost from it.
And where are we, because I had sent an email to this effect, where are we on, is the LDC on the hook for 10% of whatever that cost is?
That's up to you. Like, I think you can pay, so like the Restore New York grant, even though the town applies for it, the developer still pays the 10% of the grant.
How do
I
we
think-
ensure that?
I think you would want an agreement with him that he will cover the 10% of the local share.
Is that actually, the grants are written very clearly that the government authority that's in them is going to fund
You're the-
10%.
You're the one that's responsible, but how you generate that 10% is up to you. I mean, like, you could have an agreement with him to cover it. I think it's a lot to ask the LDC to cover 10%.
How we generate that 10% is up to us. So I think we kind of got ahead if we're helping him with this. Are we paying you to do the grant work? I think we are. Right?
Well, what we agreed to was that he would investigate the grant. I think where this is problematic from my point of view is we cannot vote to have Scott submit this grant. We have no idea how much money it is, and we're not gonna have, and it has to be in by the 23rd of November, 22nd of November. And we can't vote on it tonight.
This is gonna be dead in the water.
Yeah.
Because if we don't know a price and we don't have an agreement that somebody's gonna pay, that he's going to make a contribution to the LDC to cover the 10%. I mean, this is just kind of, it seems like this car has gotten rolling.
And I told
Somehow.
him I needed that number for tonight, so you guys could discuss it and approve it. He just said he hasn't been able to get all of his costs from his vendors.
And it has to be submitted by a government agency, I take it, like he can't just submit himself.
No, it's gotta be a government, right, not for profit, 501(c)(3). So you have to partner with him.
So just gotta ask how serious he is about getting it done. If, knowing that this was one of the lifelines that we could throw him, he didn't get around to getting to it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it's,
just-
it's, I feel like I'm between a rock and a hard place, right? It is the anchor business in downtown. It really is. That building is the anchor business. And, but I don't think he's enabled us to help him.
Right. I mean, I completely agree with you that we need to have that as the business, but you may not
Some
be the right
version
person
of
to-
that,
yeah.
some version of that needs to be there.
I think I agree 100%. I think the only potential lifeline we could throw them is if we say by Monday, you don't have it, that's it, and we could have an emergency meeting and vote, but I don't know that we'd want to do that. I don't think he's holding up what.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Now, he's got to get pricing from vendors, and if vendors aren't getting back to him, like I know on the EV charging stations, like how long it took us to get written estimates on how much the actual chargers would cost. So I'm not sure what's Mike Shavasty and what is
Yeah. he
the
told me
vendors.
Last week, when we were supposed to meet in person, he said he had been bugging after pricing, and then he gave me the same thing today, yesterday, Monday, yesterday and today, when I said, hey, you got that one? He's like, I'm still trying to get pricing,
So he hasn't given you a plan, a budget of here's what I want to do.
Yeah, did he give you any plan at all?
He's given me an outline of what he wants to do, yes.
Can you
Like I
talk
have-
to that, please?
Sure. He wants to, he wants to completely take out all the refrigerators and freezers like we discussed and reduce them. He wants to get new display units for his hot food case, his cold food case, pizza holdings. He wants to get a refrigerated bakery display unit. Self-serve like soda fountains, coffee station, slushy machines, things like that. He wants to display case for his seafood. He wants to renovate his walk-in cooler, his beer cooler, and update the compressors and wall units. A bunch of supplies. He wants new kitchen supplies. He wants to buy catering equipment to get involved in catering. He does want to do some reduction of the store size, new efficient furnaces, AC units. He's out of line.
Does he talk about being a grocery store?
Talked about removing the parts of the grocery store, so.
Well, he talked about new coolers and
he
that
talked
kind of
about
thing.
redu-
That's,
He talked
that's,
about reducing.
a
the
walk-in
footprint.
cooler is,
He talked about reducing the footprint of the store to reduce its cost
Yeah.
and putting in new efficient refrigerators, freezers, coolers to
Yeah.
reduce his electric bill. I don't think he's never
So-
talked about being a grocery.
His New York Ford application had, remove and repair the refrigeration. And I think the heating and cooling units, although I think a part of it was solar
He's got
panels.
some food that
If-
qualifies for this program.
But another way to skin the cat, I'm just throwing this out for consideration, would be to take his knowns. If he knows what he has to have some of those, like literally not every one of his vendors didn't get back to him. So if he were to take what he had, if he's got heating and cooling units, and if he doesn't, we've got 3 heating and cooling people within the village that would, within the town that would give him estimates. And the refrigeration and, maybe it takes what he has and reduces the grant to cover at least a portion of what he needs, he's better off than he is right now, and he's better off than getting zero. So if you can convince him to give what he
Well, I
has,
mean, surely for freezers and that sort of equipment, he could probably go online and get an idea of what these things cost. I mean,
exactly.
be building a budget.
Is he getting your forward money? Did he put?
The only thing would be part of the small projects
Small
fund,
projects fund.
Gotcha.
and that's that 300,000 to spread across.
Yeah.
And
But
has anyone had, so there's been no discussion with him because this 10% thing is kind of a surprise, I think, maybe to everybody. Has there been any discussion with him about paying that?
Well, we talked about it at the last meeting.
Yes, which I wasn't here.
Right, so we, because I listened to the webinar, and that's why I said to Scott, when I listened to the webinar, it sounded like we're on the hook as the applying organization for 10%. And then I asked Scott, when you look through more stuff, maybe there's a loophole there, kind of a thing. But to your point, I mean, there's no way we're gonna have an agreement in place to cover that 10%. And we cannot approve this tonight when we don't know how much money we're approving. We can't.
Right, but you're not committed to, if you apply for the grant and get it, and he backs out on his 10%, you don't accept the grant. I mean, you're not on the hook. This isn't like you go in and you give your credit card. If he backs out, you have the authority to back out as well. I'm trying to get him something.
Yeah, that's why we've gone, I mean, we met with him, 3 or 4 weeks ago, correct?
We had a private meeting.
Yeah,
there.
But then that also decreases, he still has the opportunity to apply under the small projects, and his desire is, I'm just gonna make up a number, I have no idea what it is. If his desire is 300K and he can get 150 out of this, now his desire is only 150. Maybe he can get 25 out of the small projects to do something.
250 minimum.
Okay, so I'm just
Yeah,
making shit
just
up,
so you
so,
know,
yeah.
The number we're looking at.
250. So he goes in for 250, he gets a portion of that, and then it reduces what he's gonna ask, because he will ask for something in the small projects. I'm just looking at another, maybe you take what he has and submit the grant for that. That also makes the 10% match even less. So I just throw it out there.
Questions on the phone? Jeannie or Jim, your point of view, discussion on this?
I think we really need, and Scott, you're the best judge because you've been engaging with him. Is he serious about moving forward? Because again, you gave 3 or 4 weeks of a lifeline, and it seems as though he's struggling. So
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. I mean, he was and Scott, you were in the meeting, nobody else that was in that meeting is here. He was certainly interested. He was feeling pressured with shutting down the business. But he was interested in going forward and coming up with this information.
but if he hasn't acted upon it, he may be going in a different direction that we don't want to see, but maybe for him personally is the best approach.
Well, I don't think he hasn't acted, Scott.
No, I think
Would you
I
say
think he's
that?
acting upon it. We've had a number of conversations over the last 3 weeks, through phone conversations and emails. I mean, we've been actively discussing it and sharing information.
Do you feel, Scott, though, the timeline's too tight and we're not going to be able to achieve this?
I thought when we met originally a couple weeks ago, it was too tight.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot tighter now. It's next Friday at 3 o'clock, I think. So.
So we're
So is
really
it doable
set up
though?
to
I
fail.
guess is the question.
I think it's doable. It's a matter of what you want to put towards it.
Yeah, it's not doable tonight, but, either we get information or we research good enough information and then have an emergency meeting to vote once we kind of figure out the 10%, but it ain't ready tonight.
I think that maybe Mary, since you and Scott had the meeting with him before, I'm not sure who else was there. You go back.
We had 2 reps from the town and we ended up with just Jerry from the village. There were supposed to be 2 reps from the village because we weren't sure who was going to apply.
So I think if you go back to him and say, you know, like Christine said, give us what you got and we could maybe not shoot for the moon, but at least get something. And give him a hard deadline, and if he can't do it, it's, you know, I'm not saying it's not his effort, it sounds like he's been working on it, but it might just be a timing thing. But I don't think we need to talk about it for 20 minutes tonight, because we're not gonna vote on it tonight. I think.
Well,
that's-
no, but I think we do need to understand if to Christine's suggestion, are we as a board gonna just say no right now? Because I'm seeing that a little bit in the room. So I do think we need to discuss that.
Yeah, and Scott needs to know if we want him to continue to do anything.
Right, because he's charging hours for that. So, so I guess we need to, there should probably be a vote on whether Scott continues at this point to Christine's suggestion. And then people's willingness to do a special meeting next week to vote on moving forward, or we do vote to say, put it in, and if we don't want to do it, we turn it down if we get it. That's another.
Would people be interested in my point of view, which happens to be that he has to agree to be donating the 10% back and whatever way Scott says it can be done.
Well, it does say it can be like an in-kind service, like if he does the work, some of the work himself and keeps his hours. I mean, there is other avenues. I mean, like if he pays for engineering and architecture work, that you can put that towards it. So I mean, he may be spending $25,000 on an architect and an engineer.
And that's his match.
Some local work.
But the match is supposed to be
It's our
us.
match.
But he can charge his
No,
time.
he can, yeah,
It says that, it says.
that's
that.
what the
Okay.
village does all the time. We do our in-kind services as the match, and we use our DPW guys and.
But how's that turn into our match?
He's donating that time to you. That's for cash loans, grants, donated goods, services related to the.
You know,
food service.
it's my thought, guys, let's
Yeah.
let's agree
Jenny,
on.
could you turn up your volume? You're very hard to hear.
I don't think
I got
it's
it.
on TV though.
No,
I got it as loud as I can get it on my.
The speakers,
Okay, we got
on
something, we gotta
speakers,
fix
not the
our
TV.
speakers somehow.
Go to the Samsung. Try that.
Try again, Jeannie.
Oh, is it better now?
much
Yes.
better. Thank you.
That was us.
I think we should, as a board, allow Scott to engage next week. The deadline's Friday. Engage with him, see if he can produce some type of validation of what he needs and address the 10%. But I think that at least allow Scott to have one more engagement or maybe 2 to see if we can support him and his business. But, you know, we're really on a tight timeline. I mean, Scott, do you feel comfortable doing that?
You think, what do you recommend, Scott?
Yeah, I can reach out to him even if I don't charge.
Okay.
Can you, will
20
you,
minutes or an hour to you guys. I mean, I want to try to work with them, you know.
Would you have the time to do the grant?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of DRI interviews next week that I'm traveling the state for, but I would work nights or the weekend to get time for it.
Mary, can I squeeze in a comment?
Yes, I was going to ask you next, Jim. Go ahead.
I guess I'm the Sour Patch on this one here. I might be a Democrat in my politics, but I'm a Republican in my businesses. And to me, there seems something wrong with this for us to be doing this. I'm just cutting to the quick, in my view. I think it's a problem that we're chasing him and he's not chasing us. I think the responses back are sluggish. And I'm also suspicious about the business as well, on the way he's crafting what he needs to survive. I would not be in the position of supporting this. Even though my family has been going there for 40 years of summers, by the way, you know, and I have a nostalgic, sentimental attachment to it as well. But I think as a business proposition, it should be let go. And I'm fairly certain nothing's guaranteed. Something else will replace that because the need will be enough there for someone to come in. I would say let market forces play its thing, not expend much more money, not expend Scott on this thing. I find it a little off-putting that we have to chase him to get what he wants to be able to do this. So I see that as a trouble sign to begin with. But in principle, I don't think this is a good thing to do. I said that before, and I say it again. I guess I'd be the only dissenting vote on a motion for Scott to do it, but it's not with animus. I just, in principle, think I wouldn't be there on this.
You know, Jim, to add to that, I question his capabilities to run an effective business. And he's in a difficult place. We're trying to do everything we can to support him, but I agree with you. We shouldn't be chasing him.
And on my point of view is to yours, Jim, is it even viable? New freezers, new this, new that.
There might be another issue too. If he goes under, I'm not quite clear about the matching component on this thing here for the village, but we could be left holding a bag, I believe, in some fashion on that share. But I think it's from just my sense of it, and I'm both an outsider and an insider, basically, because I know the property and the people and stuff. Something doesn't seem right about his representations, and we're on the hook for sort of guesstimates, Kentucky windage stuff. Concerns me about how our organization would have to be resting on his representations. Makes me nervous, and plus my gut is that's not a business that's going to succeed. I'm sorry, it doesn't seem that way to me at all.
I just want to be clear. He has been responsive, and I'm not chasing him. There's been a lot of communication back and forth. He's just not getting the information he needs. Like, I don't want to be, he has been very responsive. If I call him, he answers and we talk. If he sends me a text message, there's back and forth, there's emails back and forth. I just don't know, he's saying he's not getting the information he needs from his people.
Okay, that's his problem.
I just want to be clear. I don't want anybody to say that there's
He's
not responsive. It's been very.
It's a time issue. Because by the time we got involved and the time he needs to get the answers back, it's too short.
That's it. I mean, we met 5 weeks before it was due, 4 weeks. I mean,
Right, and because we just didn't even know about it until then, right?
had-
I mean, it wasn't like anybody dragged their feet.
We
just
really
didn't
have
know.
questions that are not in this request for grants, but we got into it so late, we missed the question period with the agency. So we couldn't even reach out and ask questions because the question period had closed. So like we had like how long does he have to remain open afterwards? It's not in here, but and we couldn't even reach out and ask because the comment period.
Right, I mean, we heard about it, the day that I told all of you guys about it was, we heard from Scott Gray, who was a proponent and said he would do what he could to help this succeed and get the money. So, yes, the timing is what it is. The real question that we have on the table, and I know Mandy would like to get done with this. However, the question we have on the table and we need to vote on is, are we comfortable with telling Scott to go ahead and do this grant when we don't know how much it is? That's the question on the table.
If that's the proposal, I would say no. If the proposal is to go ahead and continue to pursue either getting the information from Mike and or getting reasonable figures for some of the things that we're missing, then put a rough dollar figure on it, that would be a different proposal. So,
Mary, might it be easier to table it with this, to say the procedural process is just too tight for the comfort of the board to submit something to the state that has credibility on here, and it's nobody's fault. It was the compression of time, but we can't get that done in with the time we have to do it. Sorry.
I think that was what I said, right?
yeah, but the thing about it is, if indeed we can submit something, say we submit something, okay? And we can pull out, if that's a legitimate thing, okay? Then other than some hours for Scott, what have we lost?
Is that true? We don't have to
And
accept,
so-
we're not on a hook for anything if we apply?
You
What
don't
does
have
that
to
mean?
accept. I think that
Does
I
it
tell
look
all my
bad?
clients that it looks bad, like when you go back to them, ask for money in a different program, but will we ever go to Department of Ag and ask them for food money again? I don't know. To me, I mean, they don't say that or admit that, but to me, I think if you turn away a grant or you don't.
But you
report
could
well,
get a
it's affected.
reduced amount,
You can get a
correct?
reduced amount.
And that would not look bad, like, let's
How
say,
how about you guys give me 15 or 20 minutes in the morning to talk with Mike, and then I will email everybody my recommendation and go from there.
How do we bring that into well, what did you vote
Well,
for Scott to
depending
do
on what my
last month? What do we have to
recommendation is.
change?
all we voted for was him to investigate the grant.
So do we-
Investigate the grant, and then the thought was that we would have all known exactly what was being applied for, so we could vote on it tonight.
Gotcha. And that has, okay.
And I think that still hold if he held for the 15, 20 minutes tomorrow.
Yeah.
It would continue along that,
Mhm.
and then maybe we could decide if we need to do the emergency meeting or not.
We'd have to have an emergency
Yeah.
meeting to either say, no, he can't apply, or yes, he can. So we'd have to be willing to do that.
I'd be willing to have an emergency meeting
Yeah.
if we thought that we would.
Okay, so how many of you would be willing to come to an emergency meeting if he can get the information in the morning?
A special meeting or an emergency meeting, and how long do you have to post those sort of things? Is there even time to do that?
I think it's
Yeah.
72
Yeah,
hours.
you gotta put it like it's either 3 or 5 days. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
72 hours. Probably
72?
hours.
Okay.
Public notice.
I can do it on Monday, but I'll be in California the rest of the week, so.
You can do it tomorrow as soon as I give you an answer. If everybody emails back quick enough, you can just post it publicly tomorrow.
No, he's meaning he could meet.
We can meet.
Oh.
Yeah, I will be in California from
I thought you
Tuesday
meant you
until
would post
Friday.
it for us.
So the emergency meeting would have to be
On Monday.
Monday, which
Or I
would,
just
we
wouldn't be
could
there.
put right, it doesn't have to just go on our website, it has to go
Just
on
go on
our
your website,
website,
you
it
gotta
does not have to go in
post
the newspaper,
No, you can post it like. the
Why
village
not?
office.
because open meeting law changed and it doesn't have to be in a newspaper, but it has to be published.
Correct.
Has to be in a public place.
Which
So we don't have to spend money on ads anymore?
Hopefully not. I think when we post our regular meeting schedule, we'll do that once, but yeah, no, it does not have to be in the newspaper now.
Good to know.
That just changed as far as I can tell, because there's a new version. So we could post it on our website. Where else? And then put a poster up on that bulletin board by the,
But I think it's also, I think we're okay in the sense of, we didn't know about it until this meeting. And because time is tight, it's necessitating that. So I think we would be okay with
Yeah.
just posting it.
okay, on our website,
You
right?
can
So
have
we-
the post on the town and village website and Facebook.
Right.
If you posted them, I think.
Yeah. All right, so the motion on the table is that we just need to know, is everybody, raise your hand, let me know, is everybody willing to do a meeting on Monday if Scott has the information?
Yes.
Yep, all right. That was not an official motion thing, but it lets me know what the hell we're doing. Okay, Scott, anything else? I had actually no questions on your stuff.
That was 2 months in a row.
I know, no, you should be feeling pretty good. And I just wanted anybody to notice that it's now in a different order because I spent all the time to do that and it makes me so happy. All right, additional projects, just a couple of things. Economic development was due yesterday. We have got 4 proposals in a folder on our Google Drive. The RFP did not say a decision date, so we don't have a date when we have to decide on this. However, I need to get a couple of people who are willing to be on the review team. So who would like to be on the review team? And I know, Sarah, you were trying to get a hold of Dave. Did you get a hold of him with anything about?
I have some things.
You have some things? Okay, so adding into the mix, there would probably be some information from Cornell, but we have 4 official responses. I will tell you, they vary in cost from $25,000 to $65,000. I did not look at any detail. I just looked at the price. But because.
MRB 25,000.
Hmm?
Is MRB 25,000?
Mhm. Yep.
And you guys can see, I think I shared it, what they did for Carthage and West Carthage for 25,000, same exact price, and it's basically a downtown economic study for us. I think I shared our final report with everybody. It's not identical.
Yeah, I
Were
think
you
we
happy with
just, we
that?
need a couple, we
Yeah,
need,
we're
I,
happy.
let me make, so there's a few people that I need, people for, so not everybody wants to do everything. So I need a couple of people who would like to work on economic development and, you know, come up with a scoring matrix, score all of the things, and come back to the board with a report on that. I am going to need, with the Chamber of Commerce, there was discussion about sharing our strategic plan. They've named two people, Nicole Parator and Lori Moss, and because Lori is now our chamber rep. They're going to meet with a couple of folks from our board. We're going to share our strategic plan. We're going to try to decide where are there places where we could have, so it's a subcommittee to work with them to say what are things where instead of them paying for something and us paying for something, we could work together and fund it jointly. So I need a couple of people for that. So those are what I need people to participate. So economic development and strategic plan with the chamber. I need a couple of people. Now, Mandy, you already said you'd be on the strategic plan because you're the other side of the rep there. So it'd probably be at least one other person on the strategic plan. Dave, I didn't know if that, you know, that's kind of why I'm asking for both, because I thought you were leading the strategic plan group, if it would make the most sense for you and Mandy to be those two people.
I'd prefer to do the economic development part of it.
Okay.
Just because I don't know my timeline.
Yep, nope, that's fine.
You know, trying to coordinate
And
meetings.
all right, so anybody else want to work with Dave on economic development?
We'll do.
All right,
I would,
all right, so that's fine. We can have three, Dave, Bill, and Jim. And again, we don't, everything I've gotten is in the folder. So Dave, are you willing to lead? Okay, so Dave's gonna lead on that. He'll get you guys together, but you can all look, but you've got to come up with a scoring matrix that it's in essence in our RFP format. I think you can pluck it out pretty easily, but you'll need to do a scoring matrix.
When is the cutoff for the RFPs?
It was the 12th.
Okay, so.
It was the
okay.
12th, so that's done. All right, so Dave, Bill, and Jim will do that. For the Chamber of Commerce, so it's gonna be Mandy and
You don't get any takers, I can shift to that, so it just depends if anyone volunteers.
well, you were real passionate about the website stuff. And I think that's gonna be more in the chamber thing.
Yeah, that's fine, either way,
All right,
I'll go wherever is needed.
all right. Well, you know what? Let's leave you on economic development. Mandy, I'll work with you on that. All right, and then I'll let Nicole know that it's the two of us. The other thing is small project fund, which is the part of New York Forward that we're going to be responsible for. We've had 2 phone calls with questions. So far, we had 3 groups. I think I got another one in today. Those are not due till the 15th. So that'll be something that I'll work with Pam in the village on, but I'll keep you guys informed.
The 15th of December,
Of November. So, and they're coming in now.
not due till the 5th. Oh, okay, it's
Yep,
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I know that 2 FedEx things came into the village office
Okay.
today. So
Okay.
things are coming, but there were 3 the last time that I had gotten soft copies, so we could have up to 5. EV charging, Pam's been out of the mix with this illness in her family. But there is work going on with the local vendor who is working with National Grid on the infrastructure. And we do have 2 proposals for the cost of the EV charging stations. Scott, once we know we've got the grant from National Grid, then we'll start the charging stations grant. And we've got the estimates for that, but we don't want to apply for the EV charging stations until we know we have the infrastructure. It's just a, order thing. Did anybody have any questions on my report? Oh, all right. Over to you, Carol.
Well, the budget, final revised and finished is in Paris, submitted, done. great. Tax returns literally just have gotten completed, so that's the charitable tax return as well as the federal. So those are just big things off my back that feel good to be done, because it just, you know, yeah, it was kind of a lot. It's kind of a lot. There's always those moving parts and submission parts, and anyways, they're all done, so it feels good. And so I have 2 sets of check reports for the month of September, since I wasn't here last month, month of October, sorry. The only checks that we did put out were WC Consultants and Scott and Rent. And then for this month's check approval report, we have consultants, we have Painter Center, $1,400 for the gas. Life insurance, or sorry, Directors and Officers Insurance, $813. The commercial fire and liability for having the office, $218.16. Rent, $150. Yeah, printing for a governance meeting notice, $23.56. MRB for assisting with Paris budget, $48.75, $48.75. Reimbursing Jim, I've got a check right here, I'm gonna drop in the mail, Jim, for his mayor and municipals conference this summer, that's $443.35. To advocate Vincent for payroll for September, for our admin, $155.82, and payroll for October for our admin, $174.88. So those total $48.33.77 for this month. Last month was $15.56.25. I got this for you, Casey.
All right, so we probably need to motion on separately, one to pay previous month's bills and one for this month's bills.
I'll make a motion to pay September's bills.
All right, I'll second that motion. All in favor? Anybody
Those
opposed?
are October's bills, so.
October's, sorry. All right, and then to pay this month's bills, can I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Mandy, second? Mary?
Second?
Oh, Jim, there we go. All in favor?
Aye.
The only other thing in that space is we did decide in our reduced budget that we were not going to do the dues for the New York State Economic Development Council. They reached out to me today. I told them we were not renewing. Also, their fee went to $1,000 from the $850. So good thing we told them.
Okay.
Bye-bye. All right, anything else, Carol?
No.
All right, finance, Dave, anything?
Oh, wait, no, I didn't need to do the financial reports.
Oh, sorry.
It's been a long week. So, as of the end of September, because we haven't done the September reports, our assets of 2 CDs, I bought the second CD that we talked about. Assets total $184,577. And we have prepaid rent of $75. So we are in good shape when we get moving to use this. During September, our expenditures, during September, our expenditures were $22.75 with no revenue. We did earn $833 of interest in September, which is nice. So our net position change in September was a minus $14.42. In October, again, no revenue because that all comes in early. Grant consulting, $18.75. Supplies, $159, rent, $75. So we used up $2,109 in October. So that's what we run. A couple thousand a month on everything, what we do, basically. Kind of in a nutshell, and these are posted for everyone to see.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
All right, so Dave, finance and nothing, governance, Bill.
So subcommittee had its meeting based on the input, and so there were recommendations for changes and updates in travel policy, as well as the governance and finance and audit charters, as well as the bylaws. And so the subcommittee recommended changes, which we have put into the draft documents. I have not uploaded those yet. because we still have the seal discussion
Mhm.
for the bylaws. Once I get the answer to that, I'll drop them. And then the intent would be to go ahead and then let the entire board know, this is what we came out with these for, and I won't waste everyone's time with sending the other 9 or 10, since there's no changes. They'll just be in our folder. And then that way y'all can do it. If anyone has any issues, bring them up. That gives us flexibility in December to make whatever changes if anyone has any heartburn. And they'll be ready for prime time for the January meeting for all the policy letters, bylaws, and charters to be approved in our annual resolution.
So the discussion on the seal, when I reviewed the bylaws, I noticed that it said we were supposed to have a corporate seal we were affixing to things. So I went to MRB and I said, we don't have a corporate seal. Are we supposed to have a corporate seal? And Tracy came back and said, well, and I had gone and I Googled, and New York State says you do not need a corporate seal, right? So I said, this is what Google says. And she basically said, yeah, kind of, and you were on this, so please tell me if I'm paraphrasing this incorrectly. But it was sort of like, well, you don't really have to have one, but you could pay a lawyer if you wanted to make sure. So my recommendation is, if Google tells me I don't need one, we take it out, but I want to see if anyone has heartburn if we do that.
Oh, it's in our bylaws.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
I agree, you don't need a corporate seal. That's what I think.
All right. All right. Can I have a motion to take that out based on the expert information from Google?
Backed up by Wikipedia.
Right, yeah. And Tracy sort of said, yeah, if you don't want it. All right, so we got motions. Everybody in agreement to take corporate seal out? Aye. Any opposed? All right, excellent. All right, Club Street. Thank you, Bill, and the governance committee. You guys are doing amazing work. Scott, Club Street.
Club Street is moving along very well. Proceeding with design, environmental's been complete. It's been done. They're trying to get permission now to cap the property.
What does that mean?
Just put down a topic.
Okay.
They environmentally have to have it done. So the design's been moving along well. Don't know when.
Are they going to take the boathouse? Probably not until spring. Do you know? I mean, I know Captain Jack's is gone, but the boathouse was behind it.
I haven't heard from Dan if they closed yet.
Oh, on the boathouse.
Oh, they must have. They took down the gazebo.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they were gonna wait and do it in the winter, like the other boathouse they did when it was frozen.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't know when the right weather was for that. Okay, good. So Dan's not here. Pam is not here. Christine, anything from a village point of view that the LDC
Yeah,
should know?
just something that you guys might want to be tracking, that LWRP document, the big, we met with Irene, the town and the village met with Irene again. We've got a follow-up meeting for December, and this is just a very comprehensive document. There are she agreed there were some necessary changes and updates that had to, for example, East End Park is listed as a projected, project. And so we're just cleaning it up. We are going to reach back out to.
It was projected when we started.
No, I know. That's how long it's been in the works. We're going through updates, the maps. We're redistricting right now the entire village. The big sticking point is the entire village is under a waterfront zoning code is the best way to explain it, which means if somebody up on James Street, if Nicole Parator on James Street wants to do something on her property, she's actually subject to the LWRP rules, which I think was done on purpose initially because we wanted the flexibility to use LWRP money anywhere in the village. But as we dig into it, we're finding it constraining. And so all of the maps have to be redone, and that's going to be the time consuming. So you guys are only interested because that feeds into the comprehensive plan. It feeds into your strategic plan. So we're working on it. We're not just pushing it down the road. But it's a lot of work in an area that there's not a lot of expertise. And the original company that was hired, I don't even know what the issue was, but they defaulted. They didn't do it. Scott tried to pick it up, but he's busy with other things. So that's all. When it's done, you guys can use it. I think it'll help some of your planning efforts as well. And it does open up for LWRP money. It's the reference document for that. That's all we have.
Good, thank you, Christine. Mandy, childcare.
No updates. She's still just waiting for the next step for New York State to give her some more information.
Lori, welcome as our liaison from the Chamber of Commerce. And Mandy is our rep that way, and Lori's their rep our way, so we can really open those lines of communication. Anything you'd like to share with the team, Lori, from a chamber?
Well, I just want to say thank you for giving us a seat at the table. I'm going to be quiet until I can kind of feel my way around here. And yeah.
Well, the good thing is you didn't just say, I'm out of here. So that's positive, you know.
But I have a feeling that you have a lot of information that's going to help us. So I really appreciate the seat at the table.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, new business, 25 meeting schedule. Just want to make sure everybody's okay before we schedule everything moving forward, to keep this Thursday, second Thursday of the month, 5:30. Anybody have any angst, or can we let Casey book those for 2025? Book them. Everybody's good with booking them? Okay. The other thing it's sort of in this space is officers. So we're losing Jeannie. Jeannie, thank you so much. We got you one more month. Don't go anywhere yet. But the existing officers would like to open it up. If anyone would like an officer position, we do have an open secretary position. And the existing officers, if absolutely no one else wants it, we'll do it. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that my non-enthusiastic voice? But no, we are more than happy to stay in as officers for this year. Some of us happier than others. But also we do have an opening for secretary. If anyone has an interest in that position, it would be great if they spoke now.
Dan's not here, so you appoint the person not here.
Okay, so Bill has expressed an interest in being the secretary, which is great. Now we won't vote on those officer positions until the January meeting officially. So please be aware if there is anybody on the board that would like one of these officer positions. Really, you just have to speak up. We just, you know, but the thing is it's like one of those things that if we can, you know, move it along, we're just trying to move it along. Okay. Casey, did you want to talk about the office hours?
Sure. So I had been doing the first Saturday of the month for 3 hours. I talked to Mary. It made sense that we go to the third Saturday of the month because the third Saturday of the month is always after a meeting. So it gives me those office hours to do the minutes. I'm not sitting in the office for 3 hours and then going home and spending 3 hours on the minutes. I like getting paid, don't get me wrong, but
But then we can give you other things to do.
exactly. Office hours though, not gonna lie, nobody has come in.
Yeah.
That's not true. My husband came in. He
Yes,
was a
sorry.
secret shopper.
Neil came in as a secret shopper during the summer.
She knew who he was right away. I was like, oh my God.
And we all know that Cape dies down in the winter. So I talked to Mary. I don't know if you guys want me to go to 2 hours in the winter, if you want me to stay at my 3 hours. It's up to you guys.
What do people think? I didn't want to make the decision unilaterally.
I think 2 hours is fine if you're not getting people there.
Yeah.
Do we have it, like, does it say on the door what our office hours are?
I just put a sign, like right now, I think I'm gonna go into the office Saturday. I've had on there for the past 2 weeks that it's 11 or 10 to 1 like I normally do. So I think this Saturday, I probably should stick with my 10 to 1 just because that's been on the door. But I just put a sign on the door.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so I think it sounds like everybody's comfortable with moving it. That was a great suggestion to move
Yeah.
it to the 3rd. Obviously, if it's a holiday weekend or something.
Okay.
I think you've got the latitude to say,
Right.
I'm gonna do the second one. You know,
Okay.
You know, especially with Christmas, Thanksgiving and that
Okay.
stuff coming up, if that's a problem.
Okay.
And going down to 2 hours in the winter, I think makes good sense.
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
I don't
And
think
if someone came in, do you have like informational things to give them? Like, do we have anything kind of ready?
no.
we don't. I think the only thing would really be for her to share the website. So to say, you know, have you been to our website? Let me turn my laptop around here and show you some of the things that are there.
Do you have a little business card that says CVLDC, you know, we're making things happen or something very cheesy and then.
No,
with a-
but
with
we
your
could
website on the back.
make some
Yeah,
at some
that's a great
point. We could
suggestion.
get
Do you wanna make
business
some?
cards
Yeah.
and we are gonna need different ink for the printer too. It's still not working.
Really?
So, because there's 3 cartridges.
Oh, no.
Well, there's 4 cartridges. So I think I'll check on Saturday. I think I need at least yellow
Yeah.
in order for it to work.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, let me know
Okay.
and we'll go through this because we ordered it. I got it through
Okay.
Staples with our discount and
Okay.
all that.
The,
And add business cards
Okay.
to it. That's a great suggestion.
Okay.
with the swag pack, because we included as part of that too, the, whatever we called it, the development,
What did we call it?
publication or publicity package
Right.
as part of the strategic plan. So
Yeah. we
Okay.
wanted
we've
to-
already voted on that and it's already been approved, so
Yeah.
just pay for it out of that.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. And we've got our logo, so it's
Yeah.
kind of an idea to design what the card looks like though, so, yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. That's true. We
It's a
gotta-
great design.
It's a beautiful.
I would
If that's
love
something that
design.
you can work on and, you know, share with us, like.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Cool.
All right, privilege for the floor. My gosh, you guys were wondering if that was ever gonna happen.
I know, I always want to raise my hand in the middle of the meeting. I just want to say, I really appreciate that you decided to give time for the application of my HOC. I am not involved in that in any way, but I'm observing the town. And I really think it's important, there's a small investment from my perspective of this group to take that time and to try to continue to support that application. When I look at this town, the grocery store is a foundational piece of the community. And the thing is if that goes out of business, there's an emotional impact on the people that live here, and there's a reputational impact of other communities that look at what's going on in Cape Vincent. You know, the pizza place has turned over a couple times in the last couple of years. When I talk to people, this unsettles them. And it especially, you know, for folks wanting to shop. I went to get milk at the corner store and they're like, we're out for the next 3 days. So this is a really unsettling thing for the people that I talk to. And I think that it's really important. You know, you still might not win on this one. You still might miss this opportunity, but to not cut it off right now is really important. And I also want to say, like, just even being part of the community, I can see how that store has struggled. I think that the business environment that we're all in is a little bit different, especially a grocery store. COVID hit hard, and it's changed prices for businesses selling food. So there's a lot of impacts. I have no idea what the situation is with the store, but I think there's a lot of impacts that just taking this time to invest. The other thing is if that store goes out of business, it's probably going to take quite some time for that family to withdraw from the store. It's going to take a year to get it sold and set back up. And so I think there's just some really big impacts. You might not be able to be the entity that helps put them over the edge, but at least you're taking that shot, and I think it's really important. I will tell you, in some of the conversations that I'm having with other people in the community, I know there are other businesses right now that are struggling to pay their bills, and they're getting private support. And I think that any support that anybody can give is so important. And Scott, oof, sorry about the timeline. I do think that Cape Vincent is a really unique community, especially with that seasonal business, and it's such a big difference. And I think that the geography is very interesting here. It's both a huge benefit, but it's also a detriment because of the location of Cape. Nobody comes through here unless you're coming to Cape. And I just think that that's a really important thing to keep in mind. I've talked about, we just have to find whatever it is to sell in this community that somebody will take a 20-mile detour to go get it, whether it's licorice or cupcakes.
Destination
or,
retail.
yeah, or whatever it is.
Or a kick-ass walking trails.
That's what I was gonna say, but
No, I think that that's a really important, aspect of it.
Bird trail.
So I talked with you earlier, and I talked to Mary about this. So I was retired as the Associate Director of Extension for New York State, worked with the 56 offices across the state. A couple things. So at Cornell University, there is funding and there is a huge program. It used to be called Engaged Cornell. It's Dyson Grand Challenges now. But there is an opportunity to apply to get a student and faculty team that would work with an interested group. I talked to Basil Safi, who's the executive director of this. They received about $50 million about 6 years ago, and they've been doing projects all across the state. And I worked with those with the extension system. And so I just need some dates. I'm happy to do the introduction and get you connected. And I've told Basil that if he brings student teams up here, I'm happy to put them up in my house and host meetings, whatever I can do to help. I don't think it will directly line up with your strategic plan, but it would be an incredible supportive project for you if you were interested. It's very good for the students. And I think this particular unique set of factors of this community and now being, even being a food desert before, but, I've kept Basil up to date, like the grocery store did close. So there is that opportunity, and I'm happy to, help get connected. But I just wanted to say thank you for the.
Yeah, well, thank you for reaching out. And I think, as you guys look at the economic development, even if what they offer would not be, that whole thing, is there a piece, like we wanted to do a housing study, if we could tuck them underneath somehow. And get some of it done for free, because obviously these are proposals and you decide on somebody you like, and then you do a contract and you can make it what we want to make it. So, all right,
This sounds
great,
like an
thank you.
Opportunity for a different skew on it.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's more visibility for the town too.
Mhm.
Somebody from
Absolutely.
Cornell showing up, get in the
Absolutely.
newspaper and.
All right, at this point, we are going to go into an executive session. So I thank you all for coming. We will, so I need a motion to go into executive session. And the purpose is to discuss the resumes we've received for our open board seat.
Excellent. I'll motion.
I'll second.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank
Okay, we got
you.
motion. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
Yep, you're welcome.
definitely.
Thank you.
Do you
Is
want
it
me to
a
stop
town?
recording? And
Yes, you
leave?
need to stop
Okay.
recording.
In town or